How can you have a forest in a relatively small space or even on a tabletop? How about bonsai gardening? We're here today with Don George. Don,
hello?
You've created quite a little oasis of bonsai back here in your backyard.
Well, I started doing bonsai probably 30 years ago, and you can see I've amassed quite a collection. And this is one of the traditional specimens for bonsai that most people think about, the pine tree.
And what does that word mean?
Bonsai, you pronounce it bone-sai, not bonsai.
Uh-huh.
And bonsai means tree in a pot. And the artistry of bonsai comes in coordinating the feel of the tree and the feel of the pot. So you don't put a rugged tree such as this in a very delicate pot.
As this grows, then you wrap it with wire.
I do, and if you can focus in, I'm wiring this tree with copper wire to bring the branches down this way. I'm not quite finished here yet.
How old is this specimen?
Well, I knew you'd ask that question. And really, it's somewhat of an inappropriate, I don't want to say rude
question to ask, because we don't ask their ages?
That's right.
Okay.
Because bonsai trees are supposed to look old.
Okay.
And so when you make a bonsai, you expose a lot. I can tell you the parts, but asking the age is actually a compliment because it's supposed to look old.
But they can be very old, is that correct?
Oh yes, this tree's probably 300 years old. I went to the National Arboretum, and the Emperor of Japan gave Ronald Reagan a tree that was put in the pot in 1400.
Wow.
So
Wow.
They can get very old, and they're almost immortal.
Don, what is this one? It's gorgeous.
This is a specimen of a white oak that I got in Colorado from a friend's yard. He asked me if I wanted it, and I said sure, and you can see it's got a beautiful trunk. A lot of large leaves. I haven't styled it too much, but oak trees are, people always ask, can you do bonsai of any tree? And you can, but some trees don't look quite as good, and oak trees are that because the leaves don't shrink. A lot of the deciduous trees, as you keep them in a pot year after year, the leaves will get smaller and smaller. Next is a beech tree, an American beech, and the leaves are smaller on this tree. It's only been in the pot for a couple of years. I've collected it in the woods.
So really you can just go out in the woods and find something that you think will be ideal and then bring it back and pot it up and start toying with it.
As long as you get permission.
Oh, okay.
To dig it up.
Okay, okay.
But yes, you can. You can do bonsai just about any tree. But again, some like a sycamore, the leaves don't shrink as much.
Don, this reminds me of an ivy. What kind of tree is this?
This is called a Trident Maple. And a Trident Maple is one of the classic trees used for bonsai because the leaves do shrink very small. I don't know if in other gardening you can leaf prune and you can defoliate the whole tree about this time of year. And then when the new leaves come out, they'll come out much smaller, like the size of that leaf, rather than some of the larger leaves that you see. So the Trident maples are very nice for bonsai because the leaves will shrink and you can defoliate them. So I have a couple more of those trees around here.
And where did you learn all this? You said you've been doing it for years, but self-taught, self-read?
Well, pretty much self-taught. Everybody's probably seen the Karate Kid with Mr. Miyagi,
Right.
wipe you on, wipe you. Well, the tree that he was trimming on, I took a lesson from the guy. That was Roy Nagatoshi's tree. He was a Japanese master. And so I've taken classes from him and some other masters. Instead of just having single trees in pots, you can do a grove or a forest of trees. And this is a dawn redwood forest. Typically with a forest, you put the larger trees in the front and the smaller trees in the back to give it depth. Again, you put it in somewhat of a more rugged pot, but this isn't terribly rugged, but I added a rock. And again, you wire the branches so that they look old. If you admire trees out in the forest, the young trees have their branches going up and the older trees are sagging because of the snow and the ice. And that's the look that you're trying to achieve.
Tell me about how you take care of these when it's so hot out. We've had intense heat lately.
Yes, we have. And the pots are made out of ceramic and can get very hot. In fact, over 100 degrees, which would damage the roots of the trees. And so, besides watering several times a day to keep things cool, I'll often cover each pot with white fabric to reflect the sun from that.
And you don't like drip irrigation?
No, drip irrigation is unreliable. And many of these trees are very expensive, and plus I like them. So if the irrigation failed, I'd have problems. So I hand water every day, at least twice a day. And one of the main considerations with bonsai is the soil. There's no organic material in this soil at all. It's all inorganic clay. This is called akadama, double-fired clay from Japan. And then we have lava rock, and then some pumice. So there's no organic material whatsoever. So when you water the tree, the water goes straight through, and each bonsai pot, if I can show you a pot later, has several large holes in the bottom.
Okay.
So that the water just flows straight through. And then you also have to fertilize very well because everything just runs through. Now,
well, tell me, yes,
the akadama is made to hold nutrients. That's why we use this. And it's rather expensive. You have to ship it in from Japan, but it holds nitrogen and it holds phosphorus and all the chemicals. You can see the roots very nicely on this tree, and most Japanese maples do that, and that's called the nabari. So you have different parts of the tree, the nabari and the trunk and then the branches, and they're supposed to be in harmony together, just like a painting would be. And so when you style some of the bigger trees, you want to have all these features in it. Bonsai is not just putting a tree in a pot. There's an artistic flavor to it.
And I'm curious about the deciduous ones as well as the pine and evergreen. I saw some too, I think. What do you do when the weather turns cold?
That's a good question. All of these trees I take into my unheated garage in the wintertime. You can mulch them into the ground covered with the pine straw that we have. The last few winters we've had have been kind of chilly, and I've lost a tree or two, so I decided to put them in the garage. And then it's in a wagon, and I can wheel it into the sun if it's a nice day and back in during the night.
Do you continue to water them throughout the winter then?
Oh yes, yes, you need to do that. It brings up another great point. We often go to shows and the public asks, can I buy this bonsai? I want to bring it in my house and put it on my desk. You see all these trees are outside.
Correct.
And they never go inside unless it's for a show for one day or so.
So Don, this is a starter. Tell me about this. How do you go about starting one?
Well, this is a juniper, a shimpaku juniper. And the Nashville Bonsai Society had a workshop with a Japanese master about a month ago in my barn. And these looked like bushes that you would buy at the plant nursery. And between wiring these trees and trimming these trees, this is the way that you start designing true bonsai again.
That makes me come up with I'm thinking of a question. So if I wanted to start one of these, I wouldn't buy a dwarf evergreen. I would start with a regular evergreen, not a dwarf or a miniature like are available now.
No, you can buy a regular evergreen at any plant nursery. You would make sure it has plenty of branches, and then have some wire and some snippers, and away you can go. But you don't need dwarf.
No.
Anything will work.
Well, great.
And this next year I'll put this into a nice bonsai pot so it complements. And so the bonsai is really living art, and so you need to complement this tree with a nice pot. But you can't do it this time of year. You have to wait until the spring.
Why is that?
Well, the plant is growing actively now and using the roots. When you repot a bonsai,
it shocks it a little maybe?
It does, but if you cut off 30% of the foliage, you have to cut off 30% of the roots so that it complements. And at this time of year, the roots are actively working. If you cut off 30%, it would probably kill the tree. So the trees are almost immortal because as you repot, like this tree would be repotted every 5 years, you re-trim the roots so it grows new fibrous roots every 5 years, so it can almost live forever.
I know that you belong to a couple organizations. Are there help groups as well?
Oh yes, most of the cities, Nashville, Chattanooga, Memphis, all have bonsai societies. You can probably look them up on the internet. Our society is very eager for new members, and we're happy to help anybody who's interested in learning about bonsai.
Well, thank you so much, Don. It's been wonderful, and I just think this is absolutely so peaceful and tranquil out here. Thank you for sharing.
It is very nice and peaceful, and come back and visit anytime.
All right, thanks.
For inspiring garden tours, growing tips, and garden projects, visit our website at volunteergardener.org or on YouTube at the Volunteer Gardener channel, and like us on Facebook.